Welcome to this session, folks. How many of you are dealing with now, shortly in the future, just dealt with some issues of change within your organizations? Okay, you're in the right place. Good, that's excellent. So this session, I don't know if you know about Intercontinental Hotels Group, IHG. Huge. There's loads of them, frankly. So not only is there loads of them, but they're all over the place. 100 plus countries, almost 500,000 employees around the world. So if you're dealing with change in a situation like that, you've got to be pretty much on it. Yeah. So Tamara Jovene is the global head of learning, hotel learning within the group. Susy is from Australia and looks after learning within the hotel chains within that area of the world. So we've got somebody who's come from Atlanta, Georgia, somebody who's come from Australia. Those of you who are complaining because the central line isn't working this morning, you know, kind of hang your heads in shame here. Okay, at this point, I'm going to hand over to Tamara and Susy to take you through, as usual, opportunities for questions at the end. So store up those questions. I'm sure there's lots to learn, but please welcome Tamara and Susy to the stage.
All right, so I suppose the bit about figuring out by accents which one of us came from Georgia and which one of us did not, I've already given myself away. So welcome and thank you for spending a little bit of time with us today. We appreciate it. I'm guessing what brought us here is all the same thing, and that is the ever-changing reality of our world and reaching learners and helping to drive our business forward. So what Susy and I would like to do is spend a little bit of time just kind of taking you through the journey that we went on with IHG as we started to transform our learning organization from top to bottom across hotels and throughout the corporate office. Sound like a plan? All right. So at some point in time, there might also be something called audience participation. You know what that means when that happens? We ask, someone answers, yeah? Not going so good so far. Perfect. All right. So we thought we might start by just showing you a little bit in terms of time frame of how long transformation takes. That's what we looked like when we started, and here we are today.
I age better.
Fair.
Just saying.
Fair. Yep. Well, you know, for later. All right. So let me just set the scene for you just a little bit. So as Robin shared, IHG is a global hotel company. Who stayed at an IHG property? Thank you very much. We appreciate your patronage. What's interesting about IHG, as soon as I get back and stop clicking, is across those 19 brands, we're also tied up under one brand that brings us together, which is IHG. We have offices all over the world, and we have very, very different and complex brands that it's our responsibility to help the hotel colleagues learn more about. So if we look across our brands, each one of those 19 has a very, very unique personality. I'm not doing this. I promise you I'm not. They have very, very unique personalities. And from a learning organization, and this will become important in a minute, when we think about transforming, how do we bring an organization and all of these brands with us on our journey? Each brand needs something slightly different. Each brand is manned or staffed with different people, different personalities, different skills, different expectations, different responsibilities. How do we bring that together and move that forward? That was problem number one we had to face, or opportunity number one. The second in our transformation was to think about the makeup of our organization. We've got a little over 6,000 hotels around the world. We've got another 2,000 in the pipeline-ish. We're hoping for more. It's a really large scope to think about in terms of different regions, different cultures, different brands, different. In and amongst that, we also then think about our operating model is these people don't work for us. So we have a corporate set of colleagues that we're responsible from a learning organization. We also have a huge, huge population of hotels in which the employees are not ours. So it's our job to help them be the very best versions of themselves, to teach them the skills and the resources that they need to be successful and to drive not only their own personal growth, but the bottom line and our business performance. No small task. So, about 2 years ago now, maybe 3, my partner in crime, Tane, and I put our little heads together in a room and said, how in the world do we solve for this? How do we take a very fragmented learning offer in which teams sat all over the world and worked independently? We didn't work globally, we solved locally. But yet it's our responsibility to stop and think, how do we bring the hotel in Butte, Montana to the same level that we bring the hotel in Sydney, Australia? With the same information, because our customers travel and they expect that brand experience to be the same. So, I won't pretend to be able to tell you exactly how you'll need to handle change. What I can tell you are a couple of the things that we learned along the way. And one big pivot point for us as an organization in our transformation was to decide, first and foremost, what mattered most to us. Set all of those complexities aside, set aside the business reality of what people needed us to do, and figure out how do we get into the hearts and minds of 350,000 people effectively, because the learner is the most important thing in our business. So our transformation started with, it wasn't about how we maximized our business, it wasn't about how we drove bottom line, wasn't about how we found efficiencies or effectiveness within our own organization. It was, our calling is to get in the hands, hearts, and minds of those colleagues. So the learner first was our North Star. From that point, the rest was conversations, the rest was a little bit of negotiation, a little bit of long nights, early mornings, and figuring out how we get that done. But that was the common thread. Where we started from, 3 regions, 3 delivery teams, no centralized resource that served all, global entities, brands, and functions running our learning strategy and our learning structure. So it was fragmented, it was very complex, it was very diverse, and we needed to find a way to bring that together. From that was born the IHG University. So our strategy and our framework started with, if the learner is at the center of everything we do, the complexities are our responsibility to solve and nobody else's problem. How then do we put together an infrastructure that unites the way in which we deliver learning across our organization? One approach to learning at IHG. It started with thinking about the people, the products, and the processes. We started first with a vision of finding one global function that would lead the way and then solve locally. From a process perspective, and then I'm just talking about what we said we were going to do. Suze will bring us through what we then actually did. We started first in our transformation by bringing the business with us, from the top to the team. When we thought about how we started building a case for change, it wasn't starting with the functions, it wasn't starting with the brands. We asked for our entire executive committee to put forth one sponsor from their group to help us lead this transformation, so that at no point along the way was someone not brought with us from a financial perspective, from an operating perspective. So we brought the business with us from the very beginning, from the top down, versus trying to have to sell our case from the top up. Tane, if he was here, would say the same thing I do, and that was easier said than done. We then also thought, most important for us at that point in time was to think about, we're reconstructing something, right? In transformation, it's usually about how do you make small baby changes, or how do you make steps, or take a journey towards an end. My advice to you would be, for what it's worth, don't try to rebuild. Build forward. Rebuilding comes with complexities. Building forward comes with opportunities, and you can paint your way forward. We would also say that one of the greatest things we had to do was figure out really what was the appetite of our organization, and then be really brave. What we decided to endeavor was about a 5-year transformation in just under 16 months. We decided to launch new technology. We decided to reorg our entire function. We decided to lift and shift our entire learning offer, so all of our content. We decided to introduce 2 new individual focused audience groups. We never had a unified organization that focused on developing our own internal corporate colleagues. We'd only ever delivered learning collectively towards hotels, front lines and leaders. So we also then started doing an entire offer around our owner population. So the people that are investing and working with us, how do we help educate our owners? So we launched 2 new entire curriculums. We took dispersed sources or resources. We used to use outside translations, outside graphic design, outside instructional designers. We started building an internal center of excellence around design and development. We also built in-house, using our existing resources, the ability to focus on strategy both in today's state, steady state, but then also thinking about where we need to go to the future. So we launched new technology. We introduced completely new curriculums. We decided to revamp our team. We brought design and development in-house. And we brought in-house a strategy and effectiveness team from everything from technology to measurement, governance, efficiencies along the way. We decided to do that April-ish of 2022, launched our technology in October of 2022, launched the university in February of 23. So all of that was done in less than 10 months. Again, be brave. We had an opportunity, and the appetite at our company was for huge change transformation, and we went all in. Last but not least, the most important thing is team. Could not have done it without the people that were around us, without the right mindset, the right skills, the right ability, and a shared purpose. So through all of that, we picked up the way in which we supported our hotels, our owners, our operators, and our corporate colleagues. And Tane and I said to our teams, here you go. So what I'm going to ask for Susy to do now is talk you a little bit through what that actually means as we move forward into implementation.
Oh, am I clicking? Simple, right? Here you go. Run along. Not simple. But what we truly believe, and because some colleagues here in the room as well who are part of these schools, is we have an amazing structure that will actually bring us into the future, will allow us to grow as well. So I fundamentally, hand on heart, believe we have the basics right here. We're a very large organisation, and what does that mean is when we talk numbers, we have over 350,000 colleagues that we engage with. We have 130 university team members that span the globe. We look after 14 different languages, what we call our hotel-ready languages, and our hotels and offices span 126 countries. That alone is complexity in itself, right? So was it easy? It was a challenge, right? But, and I agree with you, it's the team that's in this room, thank you. Every single person played a part in making sure we landed this. But we had to be very clear about how we did that as well. So if we look at where, you're probably wondering, where do we sit? You know, Australia, US, this is where we sit. We are spread across the globe, right? The little pins are us, and the countries are predominantly where we have corporate offices, central reservation offices. There's a couple of countries there that we don't have an office, but we have a person in that country because it's the right place for them to be in order to deliver in the right language, right? Argentina, Portugal, for example. So we are spread. Obviously, highest concentration of our team is in the US, purely because that's where our scale is, right? They have to be there. The UK and I, you can barely see the map, because we're here, is because actually our global corporate office is here in Windsor, and we have a lot of functions who have a global remit, do sit there or in the US as well. Okay, so we are spread. If you think about if those people doing the figures around 350,000 learners, you only got 130 people, the ratio, it's a little bit, you think, oh, do you actually have enough people? I honestly believe we do, right? But the challenge is making sure that every single person in the team brought this to life. And really, I think Tamara said in the beginning, no matter how big or small your transformation is, whether it is across the globe or, 5 people in the office, really think the principles of bringing that to life is still the same. So everyone plays a role. Everyone played such a critical role in embedding the university across our business. When we did all this change, we had people moving to new roles, like as in leading people for the first time, moving roles to new functions that they'd never worked in before. So there was a mass change and reshuffle that really everyone embraced, but there was a lot of change. So we had to also deal with change within the team, embedding the university, how we trickled that down to stakeholders. There was a lot. So and what I'm going to share is not rocket science, and we can all do it no matter big or small that we do change, right? The first thing always is our North Star. Every single person in the team is, why are we here? In this industry, we're people, right? And always the learner is at the heart of everything we do. That's our North Star. So when we have conversations, we go, what's the right thing for the learner? It's not about us, right? And that's always keeps us true to our, where we want to get to, right, in the future. As you know, a lot of people don't like change. It's true for the team, it's true for us. So we had to make sure that we supported our teams to do that. I had team members who were going, it's my first leadership role, or I'm learning something new I have to get across. So we had to make sure we spent time to do that. And just think of our span. It was predominantly done virtually. And we knew that was going to be a lot of time. We had to be very intentional about making sure we made the time to do that. Okay. Now, we moved from in business unit, in region, we were solving for ourselves, doing our own thing, and then coming up being we need to be part of a global learning organisation, is we had to make sure in the virtual environment is to connect people. That took time, effort. My God, look at the time zones, right? I think that's why we're probably older. No, I don't know. That took time, effort. You have to be intentional. And no matter we had 100 other things we had to do, but that was the most important. Bringing people together to get to know each other. We're spread across the globe. We don't see each other face to face often. If rarely, we've never come together as a whole team of 130 ever. So we make sure that we connect, we keep it alive. And I will have to say, and there are team members here in the audience, I would say we've done a good job at that, but it takes a lot of work and you have to be intentional about the time you spend and the effort, right? I would say that landed quite well. But it continues. All this continues. It just doesn't stop. And then you go, okay, I've done it, tick, move on. It's a continual process that you have to do. Right, so we spent a lot of time there. What that has resulted in that we see people picking up the phone, having calls with people from across the globe, right? We are now moving to finding efficiencies, ways of working and all of that. So we've really created this university teamship, if you will. The other thing as well is not new, but if you think about what we had to land across the globe, across every person in the university, is what was really critical is to make sure that the team had a safe environment. And it's something that I would have to say we're not hierarchical at all. We're very open. I don't know everything. My team are experts in certain things. So we make sure we have a very safe environment that people can feed back going, this is landing great. This is quite not, how can we do it? But have a solution focus or mindset to come up, how about we tweak this? Because that is what makes us better, and that will make sure that we get to our North Star as quick as possible and to keep that going. So don't ever underestimate to give someone that safety to go. And in all fairness, I think anyone in our organisation, no matter what they do, would not hesitate to pick up the phone to Tamara and Tame to go, hey, what's happening? Look, can we do this? I hand on heart feel that they are very comfortable with that. So I think that was a big unlock as well, to make sure that we were successful, right? Because we had to look at all those offices, lots of stakeholders in those offices that we had to bring along the journey as well. So we've got team members in offices that is the face of the university. We need to make sure that they were prepared to do that, but also know that they're in a safe place that we could support them to do that. And that continues. And that's something I'm really, really proud of. Would you agree?
I would, and I would think, so at this point, we've now put the infrastructure in place. The team is there. We're aligned in a space in which we can think, act, behave, and actually physically impact a transformation. Now comes the time where we go back to kind of our guiding pillars. Our offer, our framework, our technology, and then what's the model we need to support that. So we are still on this journey and this transformation. We're going through our offer piece by piece. 150,000 different pieces of learning solutions that we have. And our job now is to think through what's the right thing to carry our business forward. And much like what you've been getting as you walk around the conference thus far is we're looking at all things. We're looking at leveraging our technology in different ways, at bringing in A&I. When and where do you use it? How do we build personalized pathways and personalized learning and career curriculums for people within our organization to not only be good in their role today, but be the best version of themselves throughout a career as they continue to evolve. So I think the biggest takeaway we have is thinking about how we embed it. All we've done thus far really, really well is put the infrastructure in place and bring the business with us. Now it's about getting the right offer, thinking about how to bring that to the learner of tomorrow. I mean, back in my day when that picture was taken, you could sit in a room for 8 hours and you went home with home. You can't do that anymore. How do we meet a learner in their moment of need? And what does that look like for them? No one brings the same skills to a role. They all have different experiences. They all have different needs. They all have different strengths. So from the embedding perspective, it's now about getting it back right for our learners, one piece at a time, getting the right offer. We've got the right teams in place with that right infrastructure and framework to do it, with heads across the schools that lead that individual strategy, that know their audience type. Continue to challenge and push our technology every single day to say, what can it do differently for us? How do we make it more user-friendly, more engaging? And each one of those things then leads us back to what's that operational model that needs to change for us. So we now have taken a static approach to learning, if that's fair to say. The team in the room will tell us if we're wrong. But from a static approach to how we do learning to a dynamic one that can ebb and flow with our business. And the next time COVID hits us, or the next thing that hits us, we still have the ability to be able to do what matters most, and that is get learning in the hands of the individuals who need it so that they can be the best versions of themselves. Our jobs now are to continue to embed the university in our ways of working. Yep. We did some things well, we think. We had a lot of big lessons. What do you think we did well, Suze?
I'm putting this down because I'm not very good at it. A few things we did well was bringing the team along and making sure, because let's face it, we did it in a really short time. And when we did launch it and bring the team and made all these changes, we were still building stuff, right? And we're still today. So the way we brought the team, keep them together, all that I spoke about, that was a win, absolutely by far, one. The other one too is our stakeholders, right? We did from top when Tamara spoke about the work that they did with EC level and leaders to make sure they got buy-in, is to bring our stakeholders across too. Don't worry about it. The two things that stand out for me.
The two biggest things that I would say were wins in addition would be putting centralized governance in place. When you operate in a fragmented environment, it's as good as the person in front of you. It's as good as that moment in time. And it doesn't help with the change, transformation that we need not only as an organization, but at a property. So for us, I think putting some of those systems and processes in place, while every single one of us have more gray hair or less, depending upon who you are, as you go through it, it's a necessity. If you're going to operate a mass change with a lot of people in a lot of different spaces, that was probably one of our biggest wins. We've got a long ways to go on it still, but putting processes in place and having line of sight was huge for us. I would also say investing in simultaneous technology and framework, because our business had a little bit of a shock and awe. It wasn't a new team that didn't make sense with old ways of working, and it wasn't a new piece of technology that didn't work with old learning offer. So the appetite at our company was huge transformation, huge change, and so we went all in. What would I do differently next time?
Actually, should we ask the team? Any wins you... I can hear Shane laughing.
We've got some team members in the room.
Any wins you think that you want to share that we didn't cover? Rosalie. Yep. Lovely.
I think the ladies have mentioned lots of things, but one of the wins, particularly for me, that stands out is having a learning offer that meets different needs of the learners. And because you would have seen that the ladies spoke about the 4 different schools that we have as part of our university, that is something very unique that we've never had. And so the embedding part is consistently a journey. We're still trying to educate all of our stakeholders, but that is definitely a win, because we had lots of corporate colleagues actually not really having a learning offer that met their needs, specifically when we talk about skills and development around leadership. So that's definitely been a win.
And when we talk about corporate, that includes us, right? Usually we're the first one we forget about is, the learning organisation. Absolutely. Thanks, Rosalie. Anyone else, team? Stefan?
Thank you. The biggest unlock for me was that we stopped being on the menu only as a learning function, people reaching out to us and going like, oh, we have space for learning, can you help us? But we are truly sitting on the table, and not only at the table, we cook a meal together with our stakeholders, and that was a huge unlock to really be respected and seen as a partner to the organization rather than just a nice to have on the side.
Yeah, absolutely. We do see a lot of stakeholders reach out a lot, and sometimes it's a lot. I'm looking at Rosalie because she looks after corporate learning. It's a lot, right? But yeah, absolutely, thank you.
And it's just now started to get really fun when you start thinking about what are the things that you can do. How do you reach learners differently? I know a couple of the sessions that have been going on thinking about our learners are sometimes in different spaces. And for us, the most important thing is to think about how do we become incredibly inclusive with our entire offer. What does that look like when people need things in different languages, visual impairment, hearing impairment, cognitive? How do we reach a learner where they need versus where we are at? That, I think, is another huge win for us in terms of an investment and differently. I know you had a question, comment, clarification?
Yeah, I'm just going to add to that. Also, the addition to that is culture, right? The cultural aspect, because the countries we sit in and serve, we have to also be very sensitive to that as well.
I would like to hear more about your learning offer. You said 8 hours in a room is not possible. People don't want that anymore. So what's the format? When you look at your menu, what do you have? If I'm a leader, what can I get from the university?
It's a great question. I think the easiest way for us to answer that is we have a very diverse learning offer. So we do, don't get me wrong, we still have some learning solutions that require people to sit in a room and to engage, whether around leadership development or initial certifications, things of that space. So what we do is we take the modality, whether that's face-to-face in a room, whether that is virtual, whether that is a blended where you are doing some self-paced learning, some co-ops, some formal learning in the room. We believe in 70-20-10. And more of our offer used to be 10% formal learning, come to a room and sit, and we're now really shifting to something that is blended, but it's by purpose for that audience and for that topic. And I think it varies across the different audiences too. If I'm going to sit down and talk with an owner who has invested millions and millions of dollars with us to launch a hotel, They aren't going to give me 8 hours in a room to help them understand elements of our business. So some mobile, some e-learning, some virtual, some full instructor-led, self-paced. We're playing with it all right now, and honestly, still on a bit of a journey to find that right mix. But we know no one solution fits anymore. Our learners have changed. COVID changed our world forever. People need things different in different spaces, and we've learned we can work differently. And unfortunately, learning organizations tend to have a bit of a long change curve and a bit of a real formal or traditional or real out there and real cutting edge. It's about finding that right blend because it doesn't meet everyone's needs.
Yeah, I agree. Of course, I agree with you. But, you know, the thing is that our audiences are very vast. I think what we need to unlock and tackle is learning, meeting the learner, but at the moment of need.
Yep.
That's critical. Will our face-to-face learning go away? No. We're a hotel industry. I cannot tell you how many requests we get. Yeah, okay, virtual's all good, but can we see you? Want to do face-to-face? Because we're people, right? So we do still get a lot of requests for that, but we're very, we pick and choose to make sure, well, we know for this audience this is the right thing to do because there needs to be a change. Like, we're an industry which is deeply rooted in history and we don't like change. Hotels haven't changed much really the way we operate, right? So we are slowly working towards that, yeah. But that's our
I have a US-based TV commercial going in my head. It's not your father's Oldsmobile anymore. That probably only lands with me, but it's old school. You can't get it done the same way. It's about that moment of need, right? Learners need to know something sometimes because it's new and it's different. That takes a different approach, and you have to invest more time, and you probably can't do it through an article or quick, e-learning session. But if you're standing somewhere in what we call in our business SOPs, standard operating procedure, and I need to know how to do X, you don't have time to go somewhere for 8 hours or 20 minutes. So it's a lot of those bite-size. I mean, face it, who today has already been on Google and asked to learn how to do something 3 different ways already? How many of you have been on Google? How many have asked to do something different? Teach it. Everything is in that quick moment, right? So for us, are we learning something new? Are we changing something? Are we applying something new? So it's about the 5 moments of need, and that's how we start to design and develop the content to be able to play in that moment. Again, we said it in the beginning, learner first.
Yeah, always. Should I talk about do differently? Because I don't know if I got time. Oh my. Okay. Do differently. For me, there's two things that really stand out. We took on too much. We're overly ambitious bunch, right? We're going, oh, this is great, I want to do this, that. Oh, well, what about do that? Oh, measurement. Too much. We do not have infinite resources or money to do so. And I think really we sort of got lost in we can do all this great, isn't that awesome? I think sort of held us back a little bit in the beginning. I think that's something we should have been more intentional about in the beginning. So look, we're going to do these 3 things really well, right, across the business, from looking at the learning to the measurement, whatever it may be. I think that was a big learning that we took away from that. The other one for me is that when we first launched it, we were very looking internally, going, I need to learn my new job, I've got a brand new team, we're spread across the globe. Oh my God, that we were too internal, or looking internally for, I'd say we'd gone dark for a period of time where we didn't talk to stakeholders, right? Don't forget to make sure you take everyone through that journey. It's okay to go dark, but communicate it, right? Because people then, what they start doing? Asking questions, right? So you just want to make sure to preempt that. It's okay for that to happen, because you'll hear from us, but we've got a few things we need to sort out. That's okay. I think that was the 2 big things for me. Tamara?
I would have started with the offer.
Oh?
I would have gotten my hands around, our minds around what was out there, what we had, how complex, how diverse. If you think about the 3 things that we talked about in terms of kind of our strategic pillars, what is our offer, what is our framework, and what is our technology that will bring that to life? We did tech, we did team and framework, and now we're still picking through a bit of our offer. So I liken it a little bit to, everybody knows when you move house, you really should go through and purge and get rid of. We just threw it in a box and brought it with us. So now we're still kind of organizing and sorting it. Would have made it easier, probably would have changed some decisions. So if we could go back, I just don't know how we could have crammed that into the time frame either. And we knew if you didn't move fast, your technology expires faster than you can get work done. So if you don't bite, you're in a 3-year contract. By the time you get to what you want, you're in another 3-year contract. You're in another 3-year contract. Our business is moving too fast. The world is moving too fast today. People need things faster. We don't have 3-year contracts to live out. So we took the plunge, hand in hand, but I would have started with my offer.
Talking about offer though, and then the analogy about packing house, it would have been like packing a city, right? Because we have so much. So, and that's actually what we're tackling today. It's hard work, but yeah, I agree. If you have the time and the resources to do it, even if you do a portion of it, do it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's huge.
And I know we just have a minute or two left, and our intention today was not to come and tell you about the wonderful world of IHG, however it is. Come stay with us, come play with us. But it is just, it's from our perspective, the things, and you have to reflect, what did it take us to get where we're at? All of us are going through some type of change, whether we like it or not. So for what it's worth, that was our journey and our experience. And it was starting with the one thing that we never wavered on, and that was learner first. And every decision, every plan was in place, and every plan changed along the way. But that's the one thing that has weaved us all the way through. Yeah.
Thank you. I've got 2 questions. One is I can't help thinking of design to reach the people that you need to reach. Have you considered, or maybe you're doing this, role-based training where you may have 200 unique tasks, and then I choose a country, I choose a brand, and then I choose I'm front desk, I'm maintenance, or whatever, and only those tasks for that individual role up? That's one thing. And the second thing is, how are you doing the 14 languages? Are you doing closed captioning, the translation of closed captioning? Or are you localizing everything in terms of the player interface, for example, Arabic, right to left, menus, that type of thing?
Yep. Would you be okay if I just answered with yes to all of the above? Okay. I'm going to give somebody in the room a second to be brave if they want. So we've actually got a couple of our folks in the room from technology and from our design team that probably would be better to answer. Alkesh, I'm looking at you if you don't mind. Okay. The second part of your question, from the first part of the question, it's yes to role-based. So we've ruled nothing out. So in our organization, there's front desk, there's general managers, there's housekeepers. In our corporate offices, there's people in sales, there's people in marketing. Like, we are defined by roles. The interesting thing we're learning is role-based implies or it confines you in 2 ways. One, it assumes that everyone brings the same skill set to the table, and it assumes that the role is executed in the same way across a wide variety. Easier for us to do maybe at the corporate level, but when we start thinking about hotels, as an example, a front desk agent doesn't do the same activities from one hotel to a next, or from one brand to a next. So we're playing a little bit with more of that task-based, skill-based, how do you weave it together through assessments, and actually a lot of the ways that the content's being designed right now is to do just as you asked. I know this, but I don't know this. Where do I go from here? Alkesh, do you mind?
And before we go to Alkesh, and the driver to that as well is, we know pretty much post-COVID that our teams in the hotels do multiple roles. So we can't really go, you are front, those days are gone. So that's why we need to go down that route. Yeah, more so.
Conscious this might sound like a cop-out answer, but this is true. So first, the most important thing is we have a service level agreement with our hotels in terms of the all hotel ready languages. So the commitment is that we translate to them. What we translate and how we translate is entirely determined by the project scope. So that's usually based on budget, the stakeholders' requirements. For example, one project, they may want absolutely the entirety of the learning solution translated, and it might be to the depth and breadth. So you could have a animated video, for example, with an actor in the localized language, all the way down to maybe the simplest form, which will be closed caption. And so we don't really have a set way of translating. The commitment is that we translate. What we do and how we do it is entirely determined by project scope.
And I think you raised Arabic, one of our favorites, right? Because it is. And one of the things you realize, too, when you run a video in English, And then all of a sudden you have to put other languages, and then you start putting captions on it, and then you worry about literacy rates and speed of reading, and some language, it gets really complex. So we do take it piece by piece. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, and we're also tackling too is what is your learning style? Do you want to see a video? Do you want to read it? Do you want to listen to it as a podcast? Right. So they're the things that we've started to do as well. So yeah.
Just when you thought it was safe to get into a conversation that started with the word learning styles, it isn't, because we've run out of time at that point. So first of all, join me in thanking Tamara, Jovene and Susy Infanti for their contribution. Remember, we've got our QR code there, so if any of this has inspired you to think, do you know what, I need to do some of this stuff, let me know about that within there. Tamara and Susy are going to be around if you've got particular questions or other conversations that you want, and there seems to be mob-handed bunch from the IHG group, so there might be more than one of you in that conversation, which will be fun. So have a conversation, find out more if you've got those detailed questions, but most importantly, if you are thinking that actually in the next kind of 45 minutes to an hour or so, I might be a bit peckish, make sure you get a lunch voucher before you go through the curtain at the back there. So, again, Tamara and Susy, thank you very much indeed.